Now, quite a few days have passed and there have been a bunch of new developments in light of this ASTROFEST situation. But make no mistake, while I do want this video to be like an update or recent happenings on the situation, I do have a question that is addressed specifically to Travis Scott's fans. And I want to know, after all the updates and after all the information that I'm going to bring to you in the video, what your stance on Travis Scott is. But I don't want to hear your position before you've heard what these new developments are. Number one, we finally have a list of the victims who passed in their ages, someone as young as 14 years old, and the oldest only being a year older than myself at 27. We have 14-year-old John Hilgert. We have 16-year-old Brianna Rodriguez. We have 21-year-old Axel Acosta Avila, 20-year-old Jacob Jaranek, 21-year-old Franco Patino, 23-year-old Madison Dubisky, 23-year-old Rodolfo Pina, and 27-year-old Danish Baig. The thing that hit me so hard about Danish Baig was knowing that at the oldest of this list, he was still far too young to have experienced this, but still acknowledging that there was someone 13 years younger than him that also died at this event. But even worse than that, apparently Danish Baig attended this Astroworld festival with his brother and fiance and died trying to save his fiance. Baig's brother Amar Baig told people that his brother, 27, was separated from Swingle, 25, his fiance, amid the chaos, but was trying to fend off the scores of people bulldozing toward her. Danish managed to get it to where she was able to get out. Somehow, the ambulance managed to get to her, and then by the time they got to my brother, they tried resuscitating him, and they said that before they got to the hospital, he couldn't make it. People started hitting them, people started hitting his fiance, started doing a lot of things to her. She's bruised up, and he was trying to save her, and no one there was trying to help him. "I'm in hell," she wrote, in part. "I would not be here today if it was not for him. He is a hero and the world needs to know his story." As in the previous video, there will be a GoFundMe link in the description and in the pinned comment if you want to support the families that are grieving right now, those who have suffered loss at the hands of this Astroworld Festival. Travis Scott and Live Nation and the organizers of the show have apparently been sued out the wazoo. I'm sorry, I'll never say wazoo again, but there have been a plentiful amount of lawsuits so far, and I expect a few more to come. I don't expect to be seeing Travis Scott in the near future. I don't expect to be hearing any new music from him anytime soon. I do expect Utopia to be delayed until this situation is handled in a more, in my opinion, respectful manner. Apparently, Houston Police Department or whichever force had jurisdiction over that area says that they basically warned Travis Scott within a 30-minute window before these events had really got, underway and started occurring at a massive rate, basically updating him on the severity of the situation. And to a degree, while I think that is good that they let him know, I just don't understand how, if you have enough foresight to see that a situation is hostile enough that you need to let the performer know this is bad, why you don't immediately take it upon yourself to, shut down the show or to stop it from going forward. Why do I need to consult with Travis Scott and let him know what's going on until we get the situation under control? But even if the police never said anything to him at all, the police don't have to show up to tell you that this type of situation is going to end up poorly. This type of situation is going to end up bad. I mean, it literally looks like we're in the final times in the apocalypse and everyone's charging to one point to gather the last of the available resources we have on Earth. But this is why I say one entity doesn't just bear all responsibility, because the amount of channels and the amount of different avenues that this had to go through to get approval, and it still got the okay, when there are more than enough people that could have looked at a situation like this and just said, you know what, this is going to be bad, this looks bad, and the festival hasn't even officially started. We should prevent this from happening. We should prevent this from going forward. We should create or establish some type of order right now so that this doesn't get significantly worse. But there was no attempt at that. But getting back to the point of this video, after seeing the ages of the victims, hearing and taking in their stories, and then I get back to Travis Scott, and this is his response. I gotta tell you, after seeing this response, after seeing this video, I've never felt such a strong sense of annoyance and inconvenience as opposed to humane response. When we're talking in the context of mass death at what's supposed to be a festival. This isn't like a normal occurrence. That's why I say mass, because this doesn't happen often. And I don't expect an apology from Travis Scott. There's only so much public responsibility that you should I guess acknowledge in response to all the lawsuits that you're facing as well. The way he presented himself in that clip was almost as if this was just a huge inconvenience as opposed to a big tragedy that happened at his own show. He seemed so disconnected and so disassociated from the events that had transpired. And normally I'm not the guy that's gonna criticize someone's response in terms of like what I interpret them to feel. I'm not so cynical that I am overanalyzing someone's body language, but in this video, in this clip, it just seems so blatant that I really just couldn't be bothered. Like I could be doing anything else right now. It really feels like that. Even if we put the average person's cynical nature aside, me seeing this particular clip of Travis looking into a sea of people and seeing an ambulance truck submerged into that sea of people, be put off by it enough to actually acknowledge that there is an ambulance amongst the crowd, it throws you off, it perturbs you enough to stop what you're doing to acknowledge it, but not enough to get to the bottom of why it's there in the first place. Not enough for you to halt your performance and see what's the situation. Not enough for you to say, hey, as the performer and the general controller of the vibe and the energy of my show, I can, in this moment, if I want to, and be inquisitive about the situation, ask my audience to slowly spread out from amongst this particular area so that this ambulance, who I've never generally seen submerged in a fucking sea of people, can safely escort whoever they are trying to administer medical attention to out of this crowd of people. But this instead is his response. A literal ambulance is in your crowd. What is happening should be your primary response. At the end of the day, money can only do so much. It can only solve so many issues. And I offered the GoFundMe links in the description, in the pinned comments, to show you that are watching that we essentially have the same power that Travis Scott does to offer money as like some type of form of condolence to the families and to the victims. There should be a level of response that not only Travis, but Live Nation and all the other show organizers and those who were involved in creating a safe environment or not so much for the people who attended this show. There should be a level of response that they should meet that us as average everyday people can't attain, can't reach, can't match. What is it that the people who facilitated the circumstances for these events to have occurred, what is it that they can do more than the average everyday individual that's looking at this tragedy from the comfort of their bedroom, from their computer, from their living room? What is it that the people that have facilitated these circumstances can do to differentiate themselves from the average everyday individual? Because from what I'm seeing, it's basically nothing. They're offering basically a free trial at BetterHelp for people that have experienced this situation, survived it. Scott is partnering with BetterHelp to offer 1 month of free therapy to people affected by the events of the festival. Wow, I watched someone die in front of me. I'm entitled to a 1 month free trial from fucking BetterHelp. When I read the circumstances of Danish Baig, for example, the 27-year-old who died basically saving his fiance, there's no amount of money that you can give her to make that pain go away. There's no amount of therapy that she's going to be able to receive that's going to make that pain and that tragedy go away. So I guess my question to his audience is, after seeing the entirety of this situation and realizing, I won't say how powerless Travis Scott is, because I certainly think there are other things that he could do. Certainly something more than thoughts and fucking prayers and contact the local PD if you have more information. Like, that's cool and all that you got a big ass headache and you wanting to show off your hand tattoo, but like niggas died to sicko mode playing in the background of your show. So like I don't really know how little he's able to do in terms of differentiating the level of support he's able to give to those victims versus the average everyday individual that's able to donate money as well. What is your position on Travis Scott's level of care or empathy for his own audience as a fan of him? Because I like his music from time to time. I like what he's doing for the sound, you know, of hip hop in terms of aiding to it to a degree. But I've never been a fan of Travis Scott, his persona. I've never really understood or liked him as an individual to the point where I would call myself a fan of him. I want those people that are fans of him to let me know what it is that you expect from him and what it is that you think of him after this. You know, I'm seeing these testimonies from people, these TikToks, these 2-minute clips of people saying that seeing a sea of people, seeing a floor of people, a floor of humans, fuck them up forever, which makes me feel like there are more casualties than are actually being reported. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so whatever the amount that's been reported, I'm willing to go with that. I find it hard to believe that there were only 8 when we consider the amount of people that are saying they saw what they saw, but I'm willing to go with it. I saw this post from Travis Scott from back in 2015 where he has this image of this kid that was at one of his shows, basically captioning it, "This guy didn't survive the rodeo." And it's made me rethink his music. I'm genuine. I'm being honest with you. It's made me rethink how I interpret his lyrics. It's made me rethink his use of people, real life, everyday individuals as props for the euphoria and the energy in a live show. It's made me rethink my position on how he feels people ought to be used as props for entertainment. If it contributes to the energy of my show, then I'm willing to use anything and anyone. And he's shown that in the past. I feel like he thinks that some of these people are almost like props to be used for this euphoric gratification at a live show. Like when he sees someone gets hurt or hears that there's blood getting drawn, it's like, this is a sign of how lit our shows are. Like after a certain point, it becomes primal. Like these are our instincts talking. And I feel like some people get off on that. I feel like the way Travis has cited these things in his music and even encouraged it in the past, I feel like he's one of the people that kind of gets off on that as well. His response, even in this situation, after saying, "Who asked me to stop the show? Who asked me to stop the show? Well, you know what y'all came here to do? You mean die? Came here to die?" I'm not saying that Travis knew people were dying in the crowd. I'm not saying that. But the fact that you see an ambulance car submerged in a sea of people and you don't for 1 second think to yourself that there's a possibility that someone could die in all of this hysteria is insane to me. Travis being the person who performing can control the energy of the crowd to such a degree that he can literally stop people from moving if he wanted to and say, let's spread out and give this ambulance truck and these medics space to treat anyone who's suffering right now. Hey, check everyone around you. I'm asking y'all all to check everyone around you in this moment and just make sure everyone is okay. Make sure everyone has their eyes open. Make sure no one's dehydrated. Is that really such a hard thing to do? I've seen this Playboy Cardi clip as well, where people have been citing that shows that this is how you respond to a situation like this when people get hurt. I mean, cool, that's nice and everything, but in the very same fucking show, Playboy Cardi says this.
Just tell me that we have a crowd that collapsed, and that means you guys are doing so good. So let's keep this shit going.
So Travis Scott is not the only individual that has encouraged or, I guess, given a thumbs up to this kind of situation. It's not a badge of honor. It's not good when people get hurt at your live shows, not good for your business. It's not good for your brand. It's not good for other businesses that may want to have you appear, because it's a liability when people do that. Even if you don't look at them as human beings that have their own lives outside of the context of this particular concert, liability wise for business, this just isn't a good look. I know a certain level of responsibility goes to the audience that are trampling over each other, trying to get to Travis, trying to get away from each other, but conditions can be made safer or worse for whoever is attending. You ultimately have direct control over a situation, even if other people are the ones that are performing the acts. you'd ultimately have direct control over a situation based on how you prepare for it. If you put 20 people in a room with no food and no water, and you put them in a confined space, the likelihood of them dying very soon or within a week's time is high. However, if you prepare them with a week of food, the likelihood that they'll walk out just fine is also high. The lack of staff, the lack of space, the lack of equipment, the lack of foresight, and the lack of action in this all contributed to a breeding grounds for disaster. But I wanted to know from Travis Scott's fans, based off of his response to this, in my opinion, which has been horrible, how do you feel about him at this point? What do you think of his music? Does it change anything for you? It changes things for me. I'm disappointed. Let me know in the comment section down below, and yeah, I'll see y'all next time, man.